Hey, Joe here. I'm back from Marion County Raceway. I got the car in the garage here. I had some trouble with reverse while I was at that race. I talked to Kevin at Kigley Racing, and I think we know what the problem is. So I have to pull the transmission out of here, take it apart, and take care of that issue. Get it back in there. See if I can make the no prepper race that's next week. Let's go. Tony's going to take care of the top side stuff here, and I'm going to get underneath and take care of that. Thanks, Tony. And just like that, we're ready to pull this transmission out of here. Usually I can just kind of wiggle this and yeah, get that to come away from the engine, as you can see right there. So I'm going to make it so I have both hands to work with, and we're going to get this on the ground. There it is on the floor. I wish it was as easy as it looked in this video, but I fought this thing for a while. Turned out that the dowel that goes in right here between the block and the trans was loose. So as I pulled the trans off, the dowel went with it, and there was just not enough room to pull the trans off and drop it down. So what I had to do is get the Sawzall out. I put some screwdrivers in between the transmission and the engine. Made a gap over there. It was really tough to get any gap that I could get my Sawzall in, and I cut that dowel in half right there. And then the trans came right out. So I guess I'm going to have to Loctite or JB weld the dowel into the engine so that that doesn't happen again. Now that the trans is out, the plan is to take this converter out of here. I'm going to have to pull the insides of the trans out, get way down there deep where reverse is, and get that fixed back up. Put this thing back together and swing it back up into the car. Once it's up in the car, I need to measure from my driver's side axle. I measured from my passenger side axle. I just need that driver's side measurement, and then at some point I'm going to order some axles from either Drive Shaft Shop or maybe another avenue. While it's up in the car, before I put fluid in it, I'll pull the pan off, put a new filter in it, because the fluid that came out here is a little dirty. Not as dirty as I've seen, but not as nice as I'd like to. So I'm going to go ahead and put fresh fluid in it again and a new filter, and we'll see how the trans works from there. If it works well in the future, I will go to a better fluid. And we're deep in this transmission once again. I removed the pump, which is down there. I removed the drums. Obviously, I removed the converter first. Removed the basket and the band. This hub here. Pull this little divider, or I guess this is part of the piston or the assembly that applies force on the low reverse clutches. I need to take a look at that, but I just pulled it out and placed it down. As I dig down in here, right below there is where those low reverse clutches are. I'm going to have to take those out and figure out how to get the right ones in there. But what I found right on top of these components here is I found this little piece, and I found this big piece, and I assume that this is what's left of the seal that's the part of the piston on the back side of this. I mean, we can just take a look, right? We can do that. I don't even know where it goes, to be honest. Maybe it goes inside there. I'm not sure. Better talk to somebody who does know, I guess. I got it all apart, and I found some damaged parts. There's a little washer, big washer, right here. That goes right on top of all these low reverse clutches. And the piston, which is down in here, had extended so far that it pushed this washer down inside the bore of the transmission. They kind of got it wedged in there. I managed to get it out. Found these pieces of the seal. So anyway, what I have to do now is grab a couple of steels out of one of my parts transmissions and a new one of these washers right here, because that's damaged. And rather than replace the seal in that other piece, which I can show you here, I have a couple of extras. I'm just gonna throw one of these in there in place of it, and I'll replace the seal in this one down here when I get around to it. So I'm gonna get that work done, put this thing back together, and get it back in the car. Transmission is back together. Just gonna drop the converter in it and hoist it up in there. But let's take a look at the carnage that resulted from this mistake I made with my reverse gear. So what I did was I took 2 frictions and 2 steels out of reverse. I think I misunderstood those instructions or something, but it was in order to free up some friction in the transmission. You take some of that stuff out of reverse. It's not that big of a deal. You know, you're not trying to drag race in reverse, you're trying to drag race forward. So you get that drag eliminated. It's supposed to be a mod, right? Well, the instructions aren't exactly remove 2 frictions and 2 steels. They're remove 2 frictions and put 2 steels back in their place, so that the stack is the same height. Therefore, the piston that actuates that stack only pushes out as far as it's supposed to. Well, when it's removed the way I removed it, it pushes out too far. And what happens then is the seal here gets ruined, comes out of its spot. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so the fact that it broke up like that means the seal was probably cracked in some spots anyway, old, needed to be replaced, but was working. But when it pushed all the way out of this drum, it pushed out to the point where bits of seal came out. The problem with all that extra clearance, besides making the piston push out too far, is when the piston pushes out too far, this return spring gets kind of crushed in there and jammed down in on top of, this is the planetaries here. So it kind of got pushed and jammed down on top of here, which damaged this return spring, as you can see right there, and also damaged this top edge of the planetary hub where the reverse clutches ride on. I couldn't get them to slide on here, so I had to grab one from another transmission. Here, you can see some pieces of the seal that I found in there, and some little shavings from the case, where this, not only did when it pushed down, it ground in here, but on the outer edge, it ground into the case a bit. And I was pretty concerned about that for a minute, but I cleaned it up, and I don't think that's going to affect anything. But there's some shavings I found from it. There's the seal, and here's the dowel I had to fight to get the trans out. It hits my K-member as you pull it off the engine. It couldn't come off far enough to get around this dowel because the dowel was loose and floating in there. So I got up in there with a Sawzall and cut it in half. So now I just need to get another dowel, pull that thing back up in there, put the converter in it, pull it up in there. I'm going to change the filter and fill it back up with fluid. The transmission is back in the car, ready to hook up all the odds and ends and give it a test. Kind of dark under here. I forgot to bring a light, but I'm getting this stuff buttoned up down here, bathing in Loctite. Gonna do those converter bolts, dabble Loctite on this rear bolt. This is an important one, boys. If you haven't heard, this one has to go in there. There has to be a dowel in there too. Has to be a dowel on this side too, that you can't really quite see from this angle, but it goes right here. Dowel, dowel. Put this bolt in. Don't over torque it. This is aluminum. Converter bolts in. Tricky rear transmission bolt in. Axles in. And lower ball joints bolted back up. Just gotta throw on these axle nuts. Everything under there is back together, and now I can lower the car down so that I can reach all the stuff I need to do in here. Everything's done under the hood. I now just need to make sure that I have forward and reverse gears. So let's get this thing started up and check. Transmission pressure, that's good. So let's see if we have gears. Now we're going to try first gear. Looks like it has first, second, and third. And reverse, so that's a plus. That's gonna do it for this video. We'll see you next time.
Put cheese on it.